Hello everyone, can I be heard? I hope so. It's me, I'm Cactus. I'm going to be your host for this next little bit of a block. And, first up we've got Tigerton playing Legend of Zelda Link to the Past, any percent, no major glitches.
Oh, hello. Alright, Isaac,
Hello.
before we start, what file do you want me to use? Get a move or on?
On will be the most time saved for you because it's only two
Yeah,
characters. So
you're
in the
completely
interest
right.
of competition, my vote's on.
Thanks very much, Isaac. I will absolutely do that. So, yeah,
Hell
this is
yeah.
Link to the Past. I'm ready whenever, if you want to count me in.
Yeah, you count us into the timer when you're good to go.
Who, me? Oh, I can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so this is The Legend of Zelda Link to the Past. It is the third game in the Zelda series, released on the SNES 30 years ago this year, which is quite a long time ago. And it's a very established speedrun with a very large community. It's been going for a long time. This is no major glitches, which is the main category that most runners do. So you won't be seeing many of the ways in which this game is very broken, in terms of going through walls, going up and down between layers and stuff, going all over the place. It's quite the game in terms of what you can do to it. But this is essentially what I would describe as the semi-intended way of playing the game. We'll see when we get to a lot later in the run. It becomes quite a non-linear game in which you can go to a variety of dungeons at any one time. So there's not specifically one perfect route that the developers intended. But this is the optimal route in terms of time. So yeah, like I said, no major glitches, but there will still be some minor things to save us time. You'll also notice that, a lot of runs today have been in non-English text, and this one is no exception. This is specifically the Japanese 1.0 version of the game. There's been a number of re-releases of the game, a number of different versions. This is the very first release of the game. And it has a few more minor glitches, not actually many more major glitches that I know of, because those sort of persisted throughout versions. But there's a few minor glitches we'll see throughout the run. Yeah, that we'll be able to exploit in this category. It's good stuff. So we're starting off in Harrow Castle. We're gonna go rescue Zelda from her cell. It's kind of a bit of a slow opening, but yeah, this is the sort of the part of the run where minor things can go wrong, and you'll see a lot of top level runners reset early on if you get some slight bad RNG or something, because these times are very competitive. Like I said, the game is 30 years old. The speedrunning community has been around for like over a decade. So yeah, it's pretty competitive. It's a pretty technical run with a lot of minor time saves available, and a lot of different rooms to learn, a lot of different minor optimizations. But yeah, it's pretty good fun. Alright, so our first minor item is the boomerang. I think minor item, it's a major item, I guess. Pops up on our inventory. Its usage is fairly limited in this run, since it's only really good for picking up a few keys, stunning some enemies early on, but it's our first non-sword weapon, so it's alright. It'll do. So this game has a fair few spots of RNG in it. Hang on a second, let me just beat up the first boss of the game, as I like to call it. So the game has a number of points of RNG in like a lot of different runes, but all of these different RNG patterns have got strats and optimal strats to sort of optimize the amount of time you can go through the runes. There's not really any major RNG elements, other than the two specific points during the run. The two main ones that people talk about. There'll be one, but just before we exit the light world, and then one just at the end of the game, actually, in the Ganon fight, which is, it might be a bit annoying to some to have one of the main parts of RNG at the very end of the run, but that's how it is. That's just how it is. But yeah, so this is the escape sequence, making our way out of Hyrule Castle with Zelda. We've also picked up the lamp so far as well. The lamp is It's not a weapon, you can't use it to attack things, but it is necessary to be able to pull the mantle out of the way in a second, in order to get into the back of Harrow Castle and the rest of the escape sequence, the sort of second half of it, you could say. Oh, I guess this is a good time to bring up the text boxes we're seeing right now. Since this is a very early SNES game, very early SNES game, they didn't really implement every feature they could have in its release, and that includes the use of the L and R buttons, because you do have bumpers on the SNES controller, but the only use they have in the original release of the game is for cancelling the last text box of any given conversation, specifically the last one. If you use them anywhere else, they don't do anything at all. I'm not entirely sure why it was left like that, but it just is, and yeah. It does help a little bit though, since you won't have to be mashing the A and B buttons or any of the face buttons to be able to get through text boxes at the end. You can just mash the L and R at the end and the text box will go away, so very minor thing. We also have a shield with us as well, and a sword, I suppose. I haven't thought about the sword yet. The sword's just the main weapon throughout the game that we'll use. Yeah, and the shield does limited things. People generally are, yeah. The shield you get given regardless with your sword, but its hitbox is rather small. Its use is very limited in terms of what you can actually block. No real major attacks or anything, no real major time saves, so it just exists. You just gotta carry it the whole time. Alright, we're about to make our way out of the escape sequence. Oh, okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so we made it out of escape, and now I'm going to be picking up the first safety of my run. Completely optional towards completing the speedrun, but this early on, it's pretty easy to be losing health over some segments, some slightly suboptimal movement. There'll be a damage boost in the next dungeon, which can cost some health. So plenty of ways things can go wrong. So this is one of the most common, if not the most common safety to take during a run, which is the Sanctuary Heart. It's the first heart container, and it's also specifically the only heart container in the game that also refills all of your health. Any other heart containers you get, aside from heart pieces obviously, if you get 4 heart pieces, that also refills your health. But that one specific heart container will refill your health, and any heart containers you get from bosses, they don't actually refill your health. It's the cutscene after that will refill your health, so yeah. So we're running along to the first dungeon of the game now. Movement's pretty slow at the moment, and there's not really anything else we can do. We're kind of bottlenecked into going this way. I'll be heading over to Eastern Palace to get a couple of things. The bow will be our first major weapon, other than the sword. And then, by beating the dungeon, we'll also get the Pegasus boots, which is a big deal, since we'll be able to go significantly faster than we are now. But yes. Alright, this spoon's pretty big, and there's not too much happening, so if we've got some donations, this would be a pretty good start.
Yeah, fantastic. Apologies if I repeat a few, because I wasn't able to listen to the entire of the Ratchet & Clank section. We do have 50 euros from Brian Georgechan, long-time watcher, first-time denier. Best of luck to all runners this weekend, and remember, 2357. Thank you very much for that, Georgechan. And we've got £30 from Jay, saying, thank you to all the streamers for your support. Such a great charity. Thanks very much.
Alright, you got time for one more, if you want.
Okay, so keep going a bit. We've got £10 from Matthew Jebbett, saying, big Hob sent me, kiss kiss. Thank you for that.
Thank you all very much for donations. As one of the organizers of the event too, it's really fantastic to see already how much money we've raised. So keep it coming. It's all for a great cause. It's all good. So this room looks pretty cool. Hopefully we get it right. Okay, so by moving in a very specific way in that room, we can actually cause a few enemies to spawn inside the pots that are in that room. By doing so, they actually just don't appear, and the room doesn't spawn them. But 2 of those enemies do spawn, and those are the ones that just exploded, even though you didn't see them. Yeah, so just some optimal movement and some optimal pot throwing to play that room out. The Eastern Palace is pretty linear. There's a few extra chests on the way, which we're skipping obviously since we don't need anything. I guess it's worth bringing up right now. I'd like to see a red rupee drop, which would be 20 rupees towards my rupee count, before exiting the dungeon. There's a few more chances for that to happen. And that's specifically important for a fair bit later on in the run. We do need to get 110 rupees before leaving the light world. Well, ideally we'd need to get 110 before leaving the light world. So that will be our first big sort of money thing. Alright, so that's the damage boost that we take at the beginning. Usually if you get hit by the first enemy, you can just clip through the spinning anti-fairies there, grab the part. But sometimes it just likes to misbehave. That's one of the main reasons why getting the Sanctuary Heart is so nice. having the extra hit you can take for that is really, really good. Alright, so here's the bow. Like I said, this is our first main range weapon. Oh, this guy's not behaving. Okay, that's a little close. Our first ranged weapon, our first major one anyway. The boomerang only stuns enemies, but the bow actually does a specific amount of damage to each specific enemy. It'd be pretty useful throughout the entire run, but mostly in this dungeon since this is where you get it. And in traditional Zelda fashion, the item you get in the dungeon is more or less required to beat the dungeon, so... So that's the 20 rupee we wanted. Looking to get back arrows here. Before we take on the first boss, which is almost next. Ooh, okay, he moves slightly out the way. That's fine. Alright, and that's the first dungeon of the game. And the green pendant in hand, we can now turn it in and get the Pegasus boot. Like I said, that will speed up the run a ton. And yeah, the bow, as we can see, is pretty strong against certain enemies. The bow is particularly strong against that boss. You could use the sword alternatively, but the sword does a fraction of the damage that the bow does, so you absolutely want to make sure that you're shooting as many of them as possible. And getting the backup arrows will be a useful safety for later, so for the next boss in particular. Alright, so we pop in here, we can find Sahasrara in his closet here, who tells us that we need to collect 3 pendants to get the Master Sword. The Master Sword is necessary to beat the Wizard Aghanim, who's at the top of Harrow Castle right now. We need to do all this to save a bunch of maidens, I think that's what they're called, and also Princess Zelda. So he's just given us a nice pair of boots, which we're going to use to just zoom around everywhere. A lot faster than before. Alright, so this is the first minor glitch, called Spin Speed. Essentially, if you release your spin attack, and then a frame later, you press the dash button, you'll be put into a sort of permanently sped up state until you screen transition. And what that allows you to do is just run anywhere in any direction as fast as you would while dashing, without having to start up. And that is one of the reasons why I'm playing on the Japanese 1.0 version, because that glitch is exclusive to this version. But yeah, you'll see that a lot throughout the run. It's used on a ton of different places. Yeah. Oh, okay, I figured that a bit early, but that's fine. So now we're going to grab the book from the library here. This is necessary to enter the next dungeon, which will be Desert Palace. Another property of this run, which I like to joke about as being a sort of major glitch, is the fact that you are not allowed to save and quit on the overworld, or in dungeons either, if it saves you time. So I like to joke about the fact that saving and quitting in this game is a major glitch, which it's not because it is developer intended and all that, but it is pretty funny in terms of the category. The reason why that's the case is because I believe when they were sort of establishing the rules for the speedrun, they wanted this speedrun with no glitches to be a sort of continuous playthrough of the entire game. So that's why going across the overworld like that, they thought was possibly a bit disruptive or something. So for those sorts of reasons, for the longest time, saving and quitting has been banned in this category, but it is allowed in other categories because it can activate certain other glitches. Alright, so we've dashed along to the desert area now. We'll be entering the second dungeon. This dungeon is pretty big and open. There's not a great deal to do or see. There'll be some optimal dashing and bonking and such, but we'll also be picking up a glove in here, which is actually called the power glove, which is pretty funny. And yeah, we'll be using that to be lifting up rocks and stuff that we need to.
Is there time for a few more donations?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. So we've got £50 in from Mish Hawk saying, "Good job, everyone, for organising such a great event." Thank you so much for that, Mish. Really appreciate it. We have £20 from Ellis Johnson and £20 from Crispy, who says, "Love this idea for a stream event donating for a good cause. Plus, I kind of want that Super Metroid Lumen art. Much love, you're all epic. Kiss, kiss." Thank you very much for that, Crispy. And a very good reminder that there is indeed a raffle for people who donate up to certain tiers to be entered in this raffle to win some prizes. You can check out our Twitter for more details on that. I don't remember the exact price tiering
you can also type !incentive. Oh, that's for the incentives. But for the raffle should be on the Just Giving page. So
yeah,
check that out.
We have a £10 donation from Barry B saying, "According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way Lee should be able to fly. His wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. But he, of course, flies anyway."
Thanks.
A £15 anonymous donation. Thank you very much. And a £25 donation from BMW. Thank you very much for that.
Alright, fantastic. It's great to hear all the donations coming, like I said earlier. So that's the power glove. That will allow us to just pick up some rocks, which is required to beat the game, etc, etc. Yeah, the major item out of this dungeon. I guess I can talk about the fact that the boss which is coming up fairly soon, Lamolus, it's pretty RNG based. This is probably like the next most RNG dependent part of the game beyond the two I mentioned earlier. There's a ton of different. There's essentially 3 worms which can hop out of the ground in a bunch of different directions. They can jump in certain distances. It's really it's also difficult to explain, but it's also very, very difficult to do quickly. It's one of the reasons why stocking up on arrows before going in there is very useful, since each of them take 4 arrows to die, or they take 8 sword slashes. Oh, rather, I think it's the sword damage deals half the amount of damage bow damage does. So, yeah, it's pretty important to have arrows ready to fight. And yeah, like I said, it's very RNG dependent. They can go all over the place, so the time the fight will take can range from quite a while to, fairly quickly. We'll see how it goes in a second. Alright, there will be a little optimal setup at the beginning, which helps to get the first phase done fairly quickly, or some early hits, I should say. But we'll see how I do. Let's go. That's a bit unfortunate. That can happen sometimes. Okay, there we go. That wasn't so bad. It's taken me much longer to do that, especially when I was first learning the game. This is one of the big fights which takes quite a lot of practice to get done quickly, so that's acceptable. And that gets us the second pendant of the game. Which I believe in this... Oh, sorry, Daizu.
If I may interrupt, we have £186 from Dev saying, "So proud to see all my friends run and put together such a fantastic event. Love you all a lot." Thank you so much for that,
Yes.
Dev. Really appreciate it. That's huge.
Alright, that little dash I did there, sorry to interrupt, so that little dash I did there requires me stopping on a specific pixel and then dashing like immediately afterward. It's very, very precise. It's called Cactus Dash, actually, which is very appropriate considering that you're here, Isaac.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I'm very happy I got that. It is the optimal strat on the screen, but it does require me to stop on a very specific frame to get that to happen. And I can only go for it once, so I'm very happy I got that. So this is the next minor glitch in the run. Okay. Well, it will be when I get it right. Hold on. Ooh, okay. That's fine. This is a fake flipper. what you do is you jump into the water, and the next frame you screen transition. And what that means is that the game actually just isn't able to check whether you can swim or not, because you need a specific item to swim. And by doing so, you can just swim through water without the game really worrying about it. The only issue is that if you get hit in that state, the game doesn't really know what to do because it doesn't really know where you've come from. So it just kind of it doesn't have a good time, and it probably will hard lock or soft lock at best. So yeah, it's important not to get hit down. So this guy is just chilling in this cave, which is dark, by the way. I needed the lamp to be able to see in here. This guy is just chilling in here, and he's lost his way home, so we're just gonna take him back. We can't actually dash while he's with us because we just can't, because he can't catch up with us. Yeah, and off of him we'll be getting a magic mirror, which will be quite useful later in the run, and for the rest of the run, really. It's a required item. We're making our way up Death Mountain now. Death Mountain's a little bit of a pain. Okay, that guy griefed me for one. We can see the cabbages falling from the sky here. Each of these fall in a completely random way. I'm gonna try not to get hit here, that's good. They're all completely random in where they fall. It's just a matter of reacting to where they go. But climbing that first staircase can be a big pain with those flying around, and they do a heart of damage. Taking damage before going in the next dungeon, it's not ideal. Let's just say that. Alright, so this is the Dark World, which we'll see very shortly for now. No, it's gone. We won't see Bunny Link for a while. If ever again in the run, hopefully not. But yeah, that was just that'll be where we appear later. In the spooky place of the Dark World. But for now we have Tower of Hera. This is a very different dungeon to the other two, because it's very vertical. Whereas Ethan was pretty sort of kind of a vanilla sort of, you know, it's a Zelda dungeon. I don't really know a better way of describing it. The desert was quite long and somewhat empty, and then this dungeon is all about verticality. So we're going to start off by going to the basement down here to pick up the big key, which will let us go upstairs. And unfortunately, this is a very slow room. There is an optimal strat you can do in here with the boomerang, but it requires very, very, very precise input. I've not quite practiced it yet. So I'm just gonna chill and stab some of these floating tiles for a bit. And in the meantime, this will be another good time for donations. So
sweet. So got a £30 donation from Miz saying, "Awesome event, mate. Well done." Thank you so much for that, Miz. And as well as that, we have £10 from Dylan, or Dylan, I'm not quite sure. Let's go Flippy Dippy Ben, PB Wen. Thank you very much.
Alright, so yeah, we're just going to light these torches, which will give us the big key chest, and from that we can ascend to the rest of the dungeon. So there is a trick coming up in this dungeon, which will be the first big bomb jump. Bomb jumps are used throughout the run in a number of different dungeons. I think it's just dungeons in this category, yeah. There's a number of other places you can bomb jump in the game, but for this category, just it's just going to be in dungeons. I'm going to leave those arrows too, because I don't need them. But yeah, this one, if it goes wrong, I lose about 40 to 50 seconds, so I have to climb all the way back up, which is not fun. Well, speaking of climbing back up, that's a bit unfortunate, but it's a big deal. Switch should be here. Oh no, the cameras that scroll down enough down. I hope it should work. There we go. Alright, so yes, like I said, coming up will be the first bomb jump of the game. All bomb jumps require you to be on 1 of 2 pixels, and then the bomb will boost you across the gap, hopefully. And like I said, if I fail it, then I lose about 40 or 50 seconds, and I have to climb all the way back up. But I'm going to go for it anyway. One thing I practice quite a lot. Right, it should be the right pixel. There we go. And that gives us the pearl here, the moon pearl. The moon pearl allows us to regain, or stay as our link form, you could say, in the Dark World. Which is very important since, well, there's a lot of game in the Dark World we need to play. There's a number of major glitches you can use to get around needing the moon pearl, more or less, but they're all, yeah, obviously banned in this category and relatively slow. So this guy is Moldum. He's really, really annoying. He's another very heavy RNG path. All of his movement is all RNG, so it's just a matter of staying safe, not getting hit, and especially not getting hit down the middle. Ooh, okay. Well, there we go. Yeah, Moldum's a pretty tricky fight to do quickly, and now that I fell down, he's going to have all of his health when I come back up, so it's one of those bosses of the year. You're probably going to hate when you're not really the most experienced in it, but even then, like I said, it's completely random in which way he moves, so... Oh, that's really unfortunate, alright. This dungeon could be a massive pain for new and old runners, really, in terms of how fast you can go. With Moldum happening like that. I know 2 of my PBs had me falling down at Moldum for a while, so it did, and it's not impossible for old runners too. So I'm just gonna play it safe. And dash back up. Yeah, this segment's really difficult to optimize, so... Holding your sword out like this is a little safer. There we go. Okay. That's better. But yeah. Moldum's all RNG. There's not too much you can do. You can't really do anything to manipulate him. The only real thing you have to bear in mind is the head is the only part of his hitbox that can damage you. And you can only hit the tail with his sword. You can't do any more damage to him than normal, so it will always take 6 hits with the regular sword. But that's our 3rd pendant, and that means we can get the Master Sword now, which is very good. That'll be a very nice new weapon. Okay. Yeah. Be a very nice new weapon. Powers our sword up a fair bit. And yeah, it's required to get into Aghanim's Tower at the top of Harrow Castle. We're also going to be pulling a few trees en route. Tree pulls was something that was discovered actually, like, I wouldn't say relatively recently, but in terms of this speedrun, kind of recently, because a lot of the speedrun has been optimized a ton over the years, so I would suggest that relatively recently is when tree pulls were discovered. We're going to get a bunch of 5 rupee drops here. And now I want to kill 4 enemies, and I want to not get hit after I've done so. And this will mean that a different drop will come from the tree. The next drop we're looking for is for 4 red rupees, which will give us just enough money to enter the Palace of Darkness, which is the first Dark World dungeon, which is why we needed all this money, so that's how that all works. Yes, the Master Sword is here in the Lost Woods. It's very easy to get lost in here if you're not used to it, especially as a new player. And there's a bunch of fake Master Swords lying around as well, which are kind of funny. I think they actually tell you that this is not the Master Sword when you pick it up. But here it is, this is the Master Sword. Yeah, so we were able to kill so many enemies so far. I believe we got all 4, yeah, that I do on my route, yep. There's a number of different enemies you can kill in order to get to number 4. And now, when I pull the tree next, we should have 4 red rupees, unless we get hit on the way down, which would be really unfortunate. But there are backup strats for it, so I'm not particularly worried. And yeah, just like Link Between Worlds, the music is now the overworld theme in here, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I guess I should mention the fact that Link Between Worlds isn't really a remake of this game, more of a reimagining, I guess, or something like that. Very good 3DS game that I know a lot of my friends have played, and know a lot of people rave about as being a very good Zelda game. But it is based on the world of A Link to the Past, so I want to pick this up. There is another 5 rupee en route, which I could have picked up instead, but that one was right there, so why not? I also picked up the mushroom from the woods as well. The mushroom is a safety item. On its own, it doesn't particularly do anything without the use of another minor glitch, but I'm going to be turning it in and getting the magic powder, and the powder will be very useful later on, since it'll allow me to turn a bunch of the red fairies we've seen so far into but yeah, they'll turn the anti-fairies, which are the red fairies we've seen so far, into regular fairies, which will restore my health, and it'll be much safer in the later dungeons. But yeah, here we are entering Harrow Castle again, but this time we're going to the roof. We needed the Master Sword to get past this barrier, which prevents us from entering the Aghanim's Tower. So it's a bit unfortunate I don't have full health here. I'm actually gonna... yeah, I'll do this. This is fine. That works, I guess. Okay, it's very important that I kill those guards with dashes as opposed to regular flashes, because I'm trying to manipulate an enemy drop that will come later in the game. Much later in the game, in fact. So, but these guys are in what we like to call the prize pool, or prize pack rather. Enemies, when they drop items, it's a 50-50 chance whether they'll drop items, like a heart or a bomb or arrows or whatever. And the item they drop is determined by what prize pack they're in. So those guards there, we call them fairy guards, because they are, well, here they are again. These guys are in the same, these guys, after you kill 2 of them, and they have 2 drops, the second drop will be a fairy. But we don't want that here, we want that later on. However, dashing through enemies guarantees that you won't get this, well, guarantees they won't drop anything. Which allows us to pick up the fairy later in the run when we need it more. So yeah, that's why we did that. We're not going to sit there for a long time. That'll happen in the second to last dungeon of the game, in fact, so...
Am I good to read off a few more donations?
Yeah, sure thing.
So we have £20 from Pete Grenier, Chile. I hope I pronounced that right, by the way. Chat, let's get to 1k by the end of day 1. Good luck to all the runners. I know you've worked so hard for this. Put £10 towards saving Zoe for Resident Evil 7, and £10 towards the OG Muppet Kermit, which is for Chains as Muppet Racing. Which Muppet do I play in Center? We've got £10 from Super saying, "You guys are so cool. Let's go, Mr. Tigerton. You're epic. And thank you guys for setting this up. Can't wait to see you all again." Thank you so much for that, Super.
I'm excited for Pete's run tomorrow, I have to say. No added pressure on him, but I'm very excited for his run. Alright, so the screen is going to flash a lot in a second, so if you're sensitive to that stuff, that's just a little warning. But this is Aghanim, and I think this is Zelda. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Zelda, as he's taken away to the Dark World. Alright, so Aghanim, this is the first big of the 2 major RNG parts of the run, like I mentioned earlier. So Aghanim is a boss that works in cycles. The first cycle here, he will always throw one of these energy balls at me, and it's always reflectable. And then from here on out, he has a 50-50 chance of throwing a ball that is reflectable, or one of those which is not. And every time he throws one that isn't, I just lose time. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just RNG. It's literally a 50-50. You can get up to 16, which would be really unfortunate and really slow. But that was only 2 so far. Now he'll shoot lightning like this, and that is the end of the cycle, and now he'll just start again. And this one is always reflectable, and from then on it'll just be continuous 50-50s. Until I've hit him 6 times, yeah, until I've hit him 6 times. The odds of him throwing 0 blue balls is really, really low, and yeah, the community does actually call them blue balls, so don't blame me for that one. I'm just saying what I've been told. Alright, so that's number 3. 3 is pretty much on average, so I can't really be upset at that, but it does add this extra cycle, which is a bit unfortunate. Alright, so there we go. Simple as that. Make it to the Dark World. Alright, so Zelda's now telling us that we need to go and defeat bosses in 7 dungeons around the world, around Hyrule. But this is the Dark World now, so things are a lot more dangerous, a lot harder to deal with. Every enemy in the overworld does a ton more damage than before, so this is where the game kind of gets a lot more difficult, but it's where a lot more of the fun begins, I would say. In terms of more interesting strats, more interesting dungeons, and stuff like that. So this is where the fun begins. So first we're going to take the 110 rupees I gathered in the Light World, and we're going to go straight to the Palace of Darkness, which you need 110 rupees to open, like I said. Where are these guys going? There we go. Played that one quite safe. Alright, yeah, the Palace of Darkness requires 110 rupees to open. It requires 100 rupees itself to open, but you have to give another 10 rupees to a monkey who opens it for you. Which is very nice of him. He's called Kiki. So even though he's stealing our money, he is using it to open a dungeon. That's quite nice of him. So I said this earlier, but this game's very non-linear. At this point, you can go to a bunch of different dungeons. They're all numbered. But there is a sort of intended order for you to do them, and this one is the first one, because it's the one we can full clear. We can get a major item from it, which is useful for many other dungeons in the game too, so it is the one we do first as a result. Yes, which will be the hammer. Hammer's a really good item, so yeah. But even though it's called the Palace of Darkness, it's not especially dark inside. Except for the basement, so, you know, it is what it is. I think this is one of the dungeons that, in A Link Between Worlds, it was given a lot better theming, but this is a very cool dungeon in terms of how many different ways you can go, how non-linear it is, how much stuff is around. We'll also be doing our second big bomb jump in here. I say big bomb jump, it's literally called just a bomb jump, but it's just more significant than the others because of how much time it saves. This bomb jump saves upwards of 30 seconds if done even suboptimally, so it's pretty important to get right. But first we're gathering some keys to go into the back. Like I said, this dungeon has a ton of different routes you can go down, a ton of different ways. You can go through it. It won't lock you out of going anywhere, it's quite well designed like that, so that's pretty good. One more. There we go. Alright, we need to bomb open the floor here to get the big key from the dungeon. We need a big key to get the item, and we also needed to go to the back to beat the boss. I'm gonna pick up some backup ammo here, just for safety. Can't really have enough arrows. Or bombs, really, especially for the upcoming trick, like I said. I think I explained the mushroom earlier, yeah, I think I did. We're not going to be seeing it in use for a while still, like I said, though. Alright, so we're coming up to where I'm going to be using the bomb jump. Like I said, it saves a ton of time. We get the hammer, which is really good. Yeah. I don't need that yet. Alright, so in this room we'll do it. Let's see if we get it first try. We go. Alright, so that's called the hammer jump, like I said, and it requires me to place a bomb down in a very specific row of pixels, and then it requires Link to be on another very specific pixel. And all the while, the bridge is falling behind me, so it's very stressful. It's one of the harder tricks to learn in the run, if not the hardest, I would suggest. Even though I'd maybe say a few of the bosses might even be harder. Bosses are very tough. But that's an important trick. And even though I did use a lot of menuing to pause buffer that, it did save a lot of time over getting the key that you need to get in there normally, so it's a very, very useful trick. Alright, so now we can head to the back of the dungeon to beat the boss, now that we have the hammer. The hammer is quite a nice weapon, and quite a nice item in general, because it allows us to damage enemies stronger. It's stronger than the Master Sword in terms of damage, which is really interesting, quite good. The hitbox is a bit janky though, so it's not going to be used too much for combat. Yeah. Yeah, so the hammer's pretty useful like that. It's required for this boss, it's required for a bunch of other dungeons that we'll do later. Yeah. There's a few tricks you can do to make the hitbox slightly better or more manageable, but we'll see some of those in a second. Yeah, they all actually both apply in this dungeon, so that's quite useful in terms of explanation. Yeah, fortunately, having sword beams here makes going down here a little faster in terms of having to menu less. Let's see if we do this room right. There we go. That's about as well as you can get it. That room's called Turtle Party, by the way. It's pretty good. It's a good name. Alright, now we're coming up on the boss with the Talmasaur. He requires a load of hits in the face with the hammer in order to break his mask. Oh, it's not going to dash now. That's fine. He's a bit long stuff, so I'm going to concentrate. And also play it very safe. That should be it. There we go. Okay. That was a pretty good fight. Helma can do one or two different attacks during its first phase when he's got his mask on. One is shooting the red energy like he did. Those do 2 damage if they hit you. If you run into him, he does 2 damage. And this other attack which he's about to do is flail his tail at me, which also does 2 damage. So he's a pretty dangerous boss at this point in the run, and it can go pretty wrong, especially if you're trying to rush him down. So it's good to play that one pretty safe. So what you saw me do there was if I was holding my sword out and charging it. And what that actually did was it extended the hitbox of the hammer to the edge of the sword, which is a very interesting little usage of it. I'm not sure if it's doable in any other version than the Japanese version, so I'm not actually going to say if it is or isn't, but it's very useful for getting the hammer to be bigger than it is and do more damage. And then the second thing was activating spin speed by spinning and then pressing dash on the next frame, and that also has the same effect of extending the hammer's hitbox. However, since you're not charging your sword, you can move around a lot more freely. And yeah, it's just a lot nicer in that way to be able to hit him and be a bit more aggressive.
Have I got time for some donations real quick?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. We're just going back the way we came for a bit, so yeah, sure.
First of all, I'd like to point out we've reached £700 total raised. So thank you all so much for that. It's fantastic.
Thank you. That's
amazing. And we've got £10 from Calvin Smith saying, please put this towards Whammy's Elite Smash incentive. Also, good luck to my fellow mother brain, Tigerton.
Thank you. Thanks, Calvin.
£10 from Toby Flenderson saying, 10 for saving Zoe in Trilby's run. Thank you so.
Alright, so yeah, what you just saw me do there is a hammer dash. Item dashing is a thing that's only possible in the Japanese 1.0 version. Which is yet another reason why playing on this version saves a bit of time. What you do with that is you simply use an item and then you dash in the same frame, and it will have different properties depending on what item you're using. And in the case of the hammer, like you saw, it just went straight through those pegs. Usually you'd have to walk over to them and then hit them one by one, but with the use of the hammer dash technique, you can just go through them all, which is really good, and saves a lot of time. So right now we just got the shovel up this guy. We're gonna go straight back to the light world. Nice quick one. Grab the flute. The flute's a very nice item, which allows us, in a bit, to be able to teleport all over the world, which will save a lot of time. It's required to go to certain areas of the map without glitches, so it is a required item, and it's good to get en route here. We're heading over to Feast Town next, which is a dungeon we could have full cleared before, or, well, rather, we could have beaten the boss full before, but we didn't have the hammer, so we couldn't have got the item out of the dungeon, which is necessary. Alright, so let's just see. Alright. Got past that guy. That red guard there, we call him Usain Bolt because he is the fastest guard in Hyrule. Sometimes he can just get in your way and then everything just goes wrong, so here we go. We activate the flute here. This nice tune. And this gives us our teleport ability all over the map. I say teleport, it's not really a teleport. There's a little bird that pops out that'll just drag us all over the place. Very nice of him. I'm not sure why he's doing this, but you know what? I'm not gonna ask. I appreciate his efforts. Alright, so now we're heading off to Feast Town, like I said. Feast Town is another relatively sort of more open dungeon. A lot of the Dark World dungeons are a lot more non-linear, I would say, than the Light World ones. A lot more expensive. Feast Town in particular has a lot of big rooms that you can dash through. Yeah, so we get to skip a fair bit of it, and it's much faster since we have the boots and all of our current items, so there's another hammer dash again. And yeah, we can go back into Dark World here, and then head on over to Feast Town. Oops. That's the funny thing that happens. If you hit a bush, but you're not like directly facing it, if you're overlapping between two tiles, you'll actually just bonk off of it like that, and the bush won't go anywhere. So it's pretty funny, considering you can dash through most of the time. Yeah, this is Feast Town. Yeah, this would be another good time for donations, I would say, since we're just going to be dashing through, get the big key, then go to the back.
Alright, thank you. So we've got £5 from Charnucky, the namesake of our event. Thank you so much for that, Jacob. £2 from Moscow, saying, good luck to all the runners, especially Doggy _. Let's go, Viva Pinata. Let's go, Pistachio. Thank you.
Thank you, very good.
We have £2 from Chandler Bing from The Office with the donation message, could I be in any more episodes of? The Office, and we have got £10 from Vulcan saying a good thing for a good cause. Good luck to all of you. Thank you so much for all these donations. It really means a lot, and especially well done to all of us and all of the community and all of you for getting that to £700 already so early in the first day. So yeah, really great job, everyone. Thank you for all these donations.
Right, this room's pretty annoying. It's called Hellway for a specific reason. That was a nice dodge there, but yeah, okay, that'll do. That'll do nicely. Yeah, so Hellway is a pretty tough room to go through quickly. If you line up on a specific pixel in the middle of the conveyor belt, you can actually just dash straight through the door, provided no enemies get in your way, which is another factor. Bit of RNG there, so I just played it pretty safe for the sake of the marathon. So here we have to bomb the floor. I'm just gonna wait for these guys to get out of my way. I hate these things. These guys used to ruin my runs a long time ago because they do 2 hearts of damage, and the movement's pretty quick and erratic. So it's hard to tell when they start and stop. But since we've blown up the floor, that'll allow us to beat the boss. Yeah. So we're gonna go down to the basement and pick up Blind. Don't be fooled, she will be the boss of the dungeon. She's not a nice individual. Although, she's one of the nicer bosses of the speedrun. But from a casual perspective, I can see this being probably the boss that probably gives most people the hardest time. Especially at this point when you've got relatively few extra safeties, like an extra mail upgrade, or yeah, mainly a mail upgrade or other such things. So yeah, I'll be seeing Blind in a second. We've got a fetcher from a Zeldon here. And we're going to pick up this key because this will allow us to get our next major item, which is a better version of the glove we had before, called the Titan's Mitts. The Titan's Mitts allow us to pick up pretty much any rock now. There's certain ones we couldn't pick up before, which limited our ability to go to certain dungeons. But now we can go basically anywhere, which is really good. Especially with the flute in hand too, so... yeah. Titan's Mitts are very useful and are required for the rest of the run. Also picking up some more arrows for much later in the run. I say much later, I guess we'll come to it eventually, but... yeah. So this will be Blind, which, as every commentator of this run has ever said, this is a scripted fight. If you do the exact same movement every time, get the exact same hit in, it'll be the exact same fight. That was pretty much perfect. And yeah, like I said, that's probably one of the hardest boss fights casually, but once you know what we call the Blind script, the way it moves, not too difficult. Pretty safe. So there we have it. Shoutouts to Real, who is a big fan of this boss fight. But yeah, we got a second crystal here. And with the mitts in hand, we'll also be able to get a better weapon, which is very, very useful. It's not required to beat the game. The Master Sword is required to be able to damage Ganon at the end of the game. We don't technically need a better weapon, but it will save a ton of time. It will make things a lot safer. Will do a lot more damage, so it's really useful to get. So this dungeon, being Thieves Town, and the whole area right in the Dark World right now, is known as the Village of Outcasts, full of thieves and criminals and stuff. There's a bunch of money stashed away, and we still need a fair bit more money, so I'm just gonna grab a quick 600 rupees from here, whilst we get our new sword as well. Nice bomb drop. That's a 50-50 whether that bush will drop a bomb, so that's nice. I'm pretty sure I have enough bombs to be able to finish the game now, but I like to play it safe and get a few extra just in case. There's a very important bomb jump coming up soon. Well, there's 2 more actually coming up soon, which you'll see. Yes, we're rescuing this frog here. He's not meant to be here, he says. He says he's been trapped here, used to be from the Light World. We need to return him home. That's exactly what we're going to do. And yes, like I said, he'll get us a better sword. Ooh, okay. He'll be able to forge us a better version of the Master Sword. Very, very, very useful. It does so much more damage. Yeah. And this costs a fat 10 rupees, so we needed to make sure we had enough for this, but we have a fair few rupees now, so we'll be fine. Temper Sword helps out a ton. It'll do a lot more damage than a regular sword, like I was saying. The way the sword damage works in this game is if a single swing does a set number of damage, the regular sword does 1, Master Sword does 2, Tempered Sword does 3, And then the final sword, which we won't be getting in this playthrough, is the gold sword, which does 4 damage. If you spin attack something, it does 1 level higher than the amount of damage the sword does regularly. So if you do a master sword spin, that does the same damage as a single slash from a tempered sword here. So it just goes to show how much more powerful tempered sword spins will be than what we just had before with the master sword. So it's really, really nice that we have this now. Even though the sort of iconic blue sword isn't going to be seen again for the rest of the run, but alas. Oh, okay, that was the most important trick of the run, which I failed, which is really sad. It's called Fence Dash. If you dash on a specific set frames after exiting that screen, I think if you turn up and right on a specific frame, you're able to glide along that fence without bonking, and it's really cool. It saves a little bit of time, but it's very cool, and that's obviously more important. So. There was a fence dash earlier, but it was pretty free, but I might have missed it, so oh goodness. Alright. Alright, taking 2 hearts is fine for this dungeon, I'm not too worried. I can play it a little safer. But this is Skullwoods. It's a pretty complex dungeon with a number of different entrances in the overworld. So yeah, it's pretty unique like that. All of the Darkworld dungeons are very, very unique in the way they're laid out. And this one, like I said, a bunch of different areas. This room can be a bit annoying if these mummies don't behave. Well, that one ran on that way. Alright, we're just gonna kill him. Hopefully. Which is just a much safer way of dealing with them. Yeah. They can get in your way a lot, so I'm not too worried about that. And yeah, the Wall Master here will take you back to the start, and respawn all the enemies as well for that matter, if he picks you up, so best not to let that happen. Or I could do it now, but the mirror is much faster, so... But anyway, with the big key in hand, we can go back out the dungeon, back the way we came, and pick up the Fire Rod. The Fire Rod is our first really big magical weapon. There's not too many of them, but the Fire Rod is pretty powerful. And yeah, it's required to beat this dungeon and the rest of the game. So this is another bomb jump. This one's... I'm not going to say it, actually. I think this is fine. Yeah. That bomb jump's relatively straightforward, so... And it's not a massive penalty if you fail it, so... Not the most worrisome, but I never want to say that before I'm about to do it, do I? So... Oh, that varied quite nice, so I'll like that. That can happen sometimes here. I'm not honestly entirely sure what determines what comes out of what bushes and when, but generally it's sort of fixed throughout each run, so you can sort of predict there being a fairy there. And that guard that popped out as well is sort of predictable, so it's not very surprising, to say the least. Oh, that's a bit annoying, but no big deal. We're not meant to be at full health here anyway, since we took the because of the bomb jump and going in the pit, so no big deal. Alright, so this is the back of Skullwoods. It's pretty straightforward. The room after this is pretty technical, so I'll try and concentrate and get the optimal strat. We'll see how it goes. Okay, well, that went a little wrong. If anything slightly goes wrong in here, it's pretty hard to redeem it, but I just took it safe for the rest of it. Just because the mummies do 2 hearts of damage each. Getting hit here kind of sucks actually, but take a hit. Yeah, getting any one part of that room wrong really does kind of suck. But if it's done completely optimally, it's really, really cool. It's really quick. So something else that's exclusive to the Japanese 1.0 version is the fact that War Masters can grab you while you're falling in pits, which is not a very good glitch, so we don't like that, but it didn't happen. That was Mothula. That was a relatively slow fight, actually. A lot of the time that can go a lot faster. And one of the reasons why we got the Tempered Sword as well. The Tempered Sword, you only need to slash him 4 times to be able to kill him, so... You do the first bonk in the beginning, which if time right does 2 hits, and then you only need to get 2 more hits. The annoying part of the boss fight, though, is that we see all the spikes in the room there. Mothula is immune to taking damage from spikes, which is not fun. And if you slash him into the spikes, it also undoes the damage you do with that sword to hit. So it can be pretty annoying. He moves around. It's all RNG like that, but not particularly big variance in timing. And if it goes right, it goes very right. So that was pretty decent overall. That's a decent Skullwoods. So next up, we're going to be mirroring and then using the flute for the first time. And then we're going to go off and going to be going to Ice Palace next, which is probably the most difficult dungeon overall, I would say. Well, maybe. perhaps most difficult one to learn. There's a pretty tough boss fight during it. It's also not helped that it's a very, very, very important bomb jump. It's relatively infamous, I suppose. It's the first thing that I learned to do with this game in terms of speedrunning. Yeah, it requires some precise setup, and there's a number of different strats for it. But I'll try doing the optimal one once, and if it fails, then let's do a little stable one, hopefully. But hopefully, it won't fail it. So, but on our way there, we need to pick up a few more items. We're going to be picking up one of our first frisbees, which would be the Quake frisbee. Which is required to open the last dungeon of the game. Well, the second to last dungeon of the game. The last crystal dungeon, I'll call it. Tesla Rock. But before that, we're going to mirror it here. And this is something I wouldn't usually do during a PB run, or if I'm aiming for PB, but I'm going to play it safe tonight, because a lot of the difficulty of the game is still to come, in terms of dungeons and such. So I'm going to turn in the mushroom here, and grab the magic powder. Powder, like I said, turns any of the red spinning anti-fairies into regular fairies, which restores a lot of damage, restores a lot of health, I should say, and also prevents them from being anti-fairies, which is another big plus. But yes, so we'll be getting the Quake Frisbee. Well, it's actually called the Medallion, but you know, a friend of mine calls them Frisbees, and now I do too, I guess. So. And then after that, we'll be taking a swim along to Ice Palace, which sounds a bit more miserable than it is. But in order to swim there, we're going to need to pick up the flippers as well. But this bonk here isn't actually... it looks pretty funny, but this is actually fairly optimal, because it sets me up for what's known as a quick warp. So if Link is on a specific row of pixels, he will actually mirror from the light world to the dark world, or transition from the light world to the dark world several seconds faster than if he's not on a specific row. It's every row of 4 pixels on screen, so it's a very weird sort of attribute of the game, but you know, how it was in the 90s, I suppose. And yes, we're just dashing through the Zora domain right now. These are all Zoras, before they changed in their design in like Ocarina of Time, I suppose. Still more classic appearance here. They will damage me if I hit them, unlike the Zoras later on, which are a bit friendlier. So yeah. And this is what we needed the 500 rupees we picked up in the village of Baghdad's for. Because this guy, King Zora, will only sell us the flippers for 500 rupees. You can get these really, really early on. You can get them in the Light World. You can get them after you've got the glove from Desert Palace, as long as you grind the money. But it's much more optimal to get them now on our speedrun, because of the way we get money, and the fact that we're over here anyway to get the Quake Medallion, so... And that allows us to swim. Now, as we saw earlier with the fake flipper strat, it's not necessary to swim on the overworld, or not necessary to have them on the overworld to swim, since we can just glitch our way around. But there is one specific dungeon which they are required for, and that's why we picked them up. So now we're coming into Ice Palace. Ice Palace is, like I said, a very, very difficult dungeon. It requires magic usage to be relatively conservative. It's good that I'm going in this at full health, so I can use Soul Beams. That saves up a little bit of time. And yes, there's a very, very important bomb jump coming up. We also have everyone's favorite game mechanic, which is Ice Physics. Ice Physics are controllable in this game if you have enough practice, so it's not really bad at all. But it could be a little annoying, or it can be a bit annoying sometimes. It's only really an issue in a few certain rooms we'll see though. Not that one, for instance. But yes, this is a very, very, very complex dungeon. If you don't know what's going on, you don't know what you're doing. So it can be pretty easy to get disoriented. Yeah, and it's also one which is meant to require a ton of backtracking. I guess I haven't explained why I do the bomb jump, but this bomb jump is super significant because it saves a ton of time. Oh goodness, okay, that's fine. I think damage is less fine, but it's fine. Yeah, I might just play it safe with the bomb jump in that case. There's optimal strat to kill those guys there. I'm just going to pick up the extra bombs. Again, just for a bit of safety. And this bomb jump is super, super important. Coming up in the next room. This room also kind of sucked, but the conveyor belt is pretty random. Yeah, I think I'll do the safety strat here. Let's see it done. Here we go. Okay, first try's pretty good. Alright, we have to take the hit there because of the fireball cycle, but no big deal. Again, this is another reason why the powder is so useful. A lot of enemies in this dungeon do a lot of damage, so it's very important to keep topped up on health. Nice magic drop. That's really good. I'm not going to damage boost up despite I'm getting kind of low on hearts. I think I will also take the safety fairy drop in a second too. Just because the boss that's coming up is really, really tough and can go wrong very, very easily. So the reason why we did that bomb jump is to have the peg set up in this way, which allows us to just go through here. Otherwise, we have to go all the way back around the dungeon, pick up a big key. It's pretty rough in terms of the time loss. But this anti-fairy here I can powder, and that will give me health back. Which, like I said, is not necessarily something I do on a PB run, but I really, really don't want to die here, since I'd have to start the dungeon all over again, and that's no fun for anyone really. So, and the boss does do 4 hearts of damage if he hits me, so probably best to play a bit safer for the sake of the marathon here. Nope. Okay. There we go. All right, let's see this done. Hopefully, I get this right. There we go. That was pretty much optimal. That's really, really good. Yeah, that was a really, really clean kill. I'm a big fan of that. Alright, that boss is pretty dangerous. Like I said, each of the little puffs that came out of it, the clouds, the Krakos and Kirby, whatever you want to call them, they do 4 hearts of damage on contact. So, although I made that look really quick, it's pretty dangerous if any of those go out of control and you get hit. So, yeah. There's also the matter of the ice falling from the ceiling. It's RNG whether it falls cardinally to the left and up and down, to the left, right, up and down, or diagonally. So it can be pretty difficult to avoid those. Those only do 2 hearts of damage, but being hit around in the room, it's a pretty tough time. And yeah, we skipped a major item in this dungeon. You might have noticed that. If you want to know what that is, I'm gonna let you play the game yourself and find out. But it's not required for the run, so we're not gonna be picking it up. But it would be a nice safety, I suppose. So that was the Ice Palace. Next we're going to go to Swamp Palace, which is why we needed the flippers. I'm just going to mirror and flip there straight away. Well, more or less straight away. Have to go back to the Dark Orb. Alright, so that was probably one of the scarier parts of the run done with, so I'm quite happy about that. It went pretty smoothly. But next up, like I said, Swamp Palace. So I was saying this a lot earlier, but like in the sense that this game is non-linear, you can go to a bunch of different dungeons at different times, and this applies to this dungeon too. This is actually the second dungeon that the game intends you to go to. So a lot of the enemies are a lot tamer, they do less damage, they're a lot easier to deal with. Yeah, so it's generally a lot easier than the past number of dungeons we've done, which you're meant to do after this one at a later point. So that's another minor glitch, which is called the Mirror Block Erase. It's another Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch. What it allows you to do is it's literally as simple as if you mash the mirror while you're pushing a block, the block will just disappear. It's pretty funny. That's one of the few times we'll see it during the run. That might be the only time actually thinking about it. So, but yeah, it's a thing that exists. Alright, so this is Swamp Palace. That first room there, that is the room that required us to use the flippers to get through. There's a few minor glitches you can use to get around that, but you can't actually climb up onto the next ledge that you need to get on to continue the dungeon without the flippers. Or without the use of a relatively new major glitch as well, so we won't be seeing that, obviously, so that's a little unfortunate. But hey, it's also really tight and technical and stuff, so yeah, there's a number of reasons why we're not seeing that today. Right, killing that guy actually saves a few lag frames here, but I really didn't want to bomb, so. And since I'm just going through this dungeon now, I think it's a good time for some donations.
Alright, thank you. So we have got £20 from the Chief, who says, great event, would love to see another one. And £20 from Dayman, who says, miss you all, thanks for picking a great cause. Good luck to everyone on their runs today.
Thank you both of you and everyone who's donated.
Yeah, thank you all so much. These donations have been incredible. So yeah, thanks a lot for that.
Alright, so there's also another, what I would call a minor glitch. I hate soul beams. That allows you to go through these rooms in a slightly faster way. I think it saves a number of seconds, like maybe 6 to 7 seconds. But it was actually discovered last year, as a matter of fact. But it was been banned in this category, so we won't be seeing it. But if you ever get involved in the latest patch randomizer, it's allowed in what for the glitchless rule set for those. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's a pretty cool trick actually, which allows you to go. It allows you to stand on the water, kind of, but it's also under the water. So it's. I guess it's difficult to explain like that, but yeah. So now we're going to go over to the left part of this dungeon, which we're going to pick up the big key from. And with the big key in hand, we'll be able to get the major item from this dungeon, which is everyone's favorite item, the hookshot. I'm pretty sure. No, I'm just gonna put it out there. I think the hookshot's probably the coolest item in most Zelda games, if not everyone. Just being able to zip around and go places, especially like when you get 2 in Twilight Princess, or in other games. I don't think you get 2 in the other games, but pretty much every game, just being able to go more places is just more fun, right? So. Hookshot's a very, very cool item, and in this game it's no exception. It's a very, very good item. Very good for safety, very good for movement, like I said. It's a really cool item in general. But first we gotta backtrack through the dungeon a little bit. Oh goodness. Okay. That's fine. And with it, we'll be able to take on the boss at the end too. That's a very dangerous dash, but we got away with that one. Alright, so with the hookshot in hand, we'll be able to go across to get the small key here, and then go straight to the back. There's a cool strat in the boss, which involves another item dash. We did a couple of these with the hammer already. But if you hookshot and dash on the same frame, it's what's called a hook dash, which we're about to see actually in a very, very different way, but you'll see Link vibing a bit more now than normal if you're watching the FPS anyway. And that allows him to pick up that part even though there's other stuff there. It extends the sort of grabbing her butt a little bit. Yeah, it's very weird. It's a very strange state to be in, but it also accomplishes the same thing that spin speed does. If you hookshot and dash in the same frame, it'll allow you to enter that super speed state from earlier that we've seen. So it's a slightly easier way of doing it too.
Apologies to cut you off here, but we just received a £150 donation from GP. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, that's amazing. Wow.
The caption says, full message to for here, sent to Charnucky directly. So if any of the other organisers are listening, if you DM me the message, I'll be able to read it out on stream. Thank you.
Right, just let me focus on this upcoming boss, see how that goes. It's not too dangerous in terms of death, I just want to get the optimal strat if I can. Optimal strat for that spot requires, it involves you being able to hit him, destroy those puffs before he spins around like that. Which is pretty tight, because you have to press your sword in specific, you have to keep your sword held out, you have to hookshot in specific times, and you have to move around and stuff too, so it's a pretty tight way of doing it, and I actually changed my controller grip for it, so it's a pretty interesting trick. It's gonna be a while to learn, but I'm still not consistent at it, as we can see. That'll do for now. That was a decent fight. And yeah, the last phase there wasn't too difficult. Just 2 fire shots and a spin instead. Easy enough. So like I said, this is one of the earlier dungeons you're meant to come to. Yeah, it's one of the earlier dungeons you're meant to come to, so it's a bit safer than the others. But now we're going to be heading back to the hard dungeons, so that's exciting. For some people maybe. Not necessarily for me, because it's a bit scary, but we'll get through. We'll get through it. But first, before we... Oh, what's up?
I was about to ask, may I briefly read this message from GP alongside his donation?
Go ahead, yeah. I'm just going to pick up a few more effect quest items, so we got some time.
So GP says, hello all, great job so far. This summer I've been unable to do my pledge for the movement and I felt bad for letting the site down. Hopefully this is an acceptable replacement. £100 to Zoe in Trilby's run and an extra £50 to Charnucky singing Renai Circulation tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, GP. That's so generous. Alright, so like I said, we're going back up the mountain now. That's an example of the hook speed there. It accomplishes the same thing as the sword one, but if we do it while we're holding our sword out here, we climb the stairs a lot faster. So that's one of the reasons why it's good to do this when you get the hook shot. We could have come here a little earlier, but having the hook shot speeds it up a little bit. And that all adds up. Not getting hit on the mountain is really good, because this segment's all about not taking damage, really. There's a number of damage-based techs we'll do in the next dungeon, so taking damage would be a bit unfortunate. I'm also going up here, so that's cool. Alright, there's another bit of screen brightness, so turn away now, if you're sensitive to that. Might be a bit late. I should have said that a little earlier, but here we are. So that's the second medallion, we're getting the Ether medallion. That'll allow us to open this next dungeon, which is Misery Mire. Good. So there's a specific thing I did there, which was sort of pick up the rock on a specific way. What am I trying to say? Pick up the rock from a certain point, and that's to do with a point at which the bird flies off screen. Yeah. It's to do with a point at which the bird flies off screen, and that sets a variable, which is going to be useful for this dungeon. It's a very weird and complex sort of trick, but I'm not sure I'm going to have all the time to explain it, but, you know, that's essentially that's why I did that. Alright, so let's see how this room goes. Alright, that was much like an asshole, really, that was pretty good. Maya 2 is one of those rooms which a lot of speedrunners like to practice and like to get through. It's pretty cool if you do it right like that without any of the wizrobes disappearing. And yeah, this is the first instance that we're seeing wizrobes in this game. They are very dangerous. They do 4 hearts of damage if you hit them or their beams, so you gotta be pretty careful. And like I said, in this dungeon, health management is very, very, very important. So I'm gonna pause here to stop getting hit by that fireball. Because if I dashed immediately, I would have got hit. So that's fine though. Might be able to pick up extra health later, so it's not vital to be at full health, but the more health I am at, the better. And the less likely it is I have to pick up a safety, so that's always nice. I'm gonna light these torches, which opens up the basement, gives us the big key. And in the meantime, we've got a little more time for some donations.
Right, we've got a £50 donation from Captain JJ saying, "Best of luck to all runners doing the speedruns for a fantastic cause." Thank you very much.
Right, you can do one more if you want.
We haven't got any more through at the minute,
Okay.
but if everyone would like to check out our donation page or our social media page, you can use the commands donate in the chat.
You certainly can. Alright, so now that we've got the big key, we're going to get the item from this dungeon, which is, I believe, exclusive to this game. I don't think it's made a real appearance ever since, which is the Cane of Samaria. The cane is a super, super cool item. Like I said, it's pretty much exclusive to this game. What it does is it creates a block, which you can use to hit switches. The block itself, if enemies walk into it, does damage to them. It's a very creative and very interesting item. Possibly one of the reasons why it's not returned later is because it's also extremely broken in the world of major glitches. Possibly why they haven't brought it back. They might not have figured everything out yet, but we're not going to be seeing any of those today. I put in that chest. But yes, we'll see that shortly. Yeah, taking 3 hits there is inevitable if you're going fast, so that's one of the reasons why being cut to 1 health is really useful here. Now we're heading into the back of the dungeon. Oh, okay. I hate that route. So that part usually has a heart underneath it, but if too much is on screen at once, it'll actually despawn, which is a bit annoying. But alas. Alright, I hate this room, so I'm gonna see how quickly I get through it today. Okay, that was really good. I don't know why I struggle with that room so much. It's not particularly difficult. Alright, so now we're going to see another minor glitch. Hopefully. You'll have heard the switch getting hit then, and you'll probably see it again, hear it again in a second. There we go. Now this is what's called spooky action, which is a very, very funny name. Shouts to Einstein, but it's glitched because people for the longest time had no idea why this happened. But eventually the cause was discovered, and it's very complicated, and it is, as I said earlier, it's to do with where the bird flies off screen. So I'm going to concentrate for this boss. So give me a second. Okay, yeah, so this is one of the reasons why I'm really... It's one of the reasons why I took the safety anti-fire earlier. It's because this boss is really dangerous if you do on low health, just because of those damage boost threats. Standing in the acid when the boss was alive, obviously, only does 1 heart of damage to Link, and you can also still charge a sword, you can spin attack. It's sort of like a terrain damage, I guess you'd call it. Yeah. However, the boss itself is pretty dangerous. Any of the eyes, they do 4 hearts of damage, the little ones. I'm pretty sure the big one does as well if you touch him. And the lightning it shoots out, which I think we saw, that does 2 hearts of damage, so it's not quite so bad. Yes, each of those eyes takes 3 arrows to kill, which can be pretty annoying. You actually don't have enough arrows in your vanilla account to be able to kill all of the eyes, and the boss too. And then the big eye at the end takes 8 shots, and then we're done. So that's probably my least favorite part of the run done, so I'm pretty happy that it's gone smoothly. Dying there would be really, really timely, or time costly, I guess you'd say. So that's really good that I didn't die. And yeah, again, shoutouts to safeties. Safeties are making this a lot easier, but it is by no means an easy run. I'm absolutely not through the worst of it yet.
We have just reached £1,000 donated. Sorry to cut you off, but I feel like this is worth mentioning. We got £60 from Trilby saying, "Screw it, let's get to 1K right now. I love you all doing this. Thank you so much to everyone running and hosting this. Let's get to 2,000. Hashtag get a move on."
Yo,
and an additional
from
Trilby, thank you so much. An additional 10 from Haggis saying, "Go to Tigerton. Keep up the run. Good luck on the Haggis room."
I know what room he's talking about. I'll call it out later. Alright, so we just picked up the Ice Rod. The Ice Rod is a very silly item. It's literally only required for beating one of the bosses in the game, and that's it. The only thing we need it for is for beating that one boss. It's also tucked away there, in the very early parts of the game, which we need to get to beat this boss, like I said. So, yeah, it's pretty annoying that we have to go out to wait for it, but it is what it is. It also really doesn't do anything unique. It's just kind of like the Fire Rod, but ice. So the shot is a bit slower. It does the same damage to everything. It can freeze enemies, which is interesting, but we won't be seeing that in this run. So there's not really many massive uses of that in the regular speedrun that I know of. But yes. So right now we're heading to Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock's the last crystal dungeon of the game before Ganon's Tower. Very difficult. Again, more high damage enemies and similar. Okay, good. I didn't get stopped by those guys. I'm gonna play this pretty safe because these guys are the worst. You can't actually kill these guys except without powdering them, but that's slow, and we don't want to do that. Yeah, this is Turtle Rock. The final crystal dungeon. We need the Quake Medallion to enter, like I said earlier, and here it is. We also need the Cane of Samaria from Misery Maya, which we just got to be able to progress through it. So we also needed to be able to go over here with the hookshot, or the hammer and the mirror, which we had anyway. And we also needed the Titan Smith. So the game really doesn't want you coming here early. There's a lot of requirements in place for that. But yes, so this dungeon, like I said, is very scary and dangerous. Enemies do a ton of damage, and it's fairly long as well, so yes. Probably the second longest dungeon in the game, I'd say. Even on the speedrun. We're also going to see some familiar faces for those that have played some Mario games before, so... and they are indeed called... Or well, the speedrunning community does call them by their Mario names as well. We'll see those shortly, but... yeah. Also, if you remember a long time ago, when we were in Aghanim's Tower, I specifically killed 2 enemies with dashes into the pits. And that will set up for something that is going to happen in this dungeon. Ooh, that's a big deal. Okay, that's getting close. But there we go. Yes, not killing those enemies through slashes sets up something in this dungeon. Because enemies in this dungeon are in the same prize pack as those two guards that we dash killed. Pretty interesting. I'm maybe about to say it, so let's see. There it is. There's the ferry. We manipulated that to spawn here. Getting hit kind of sick. Oh, getting hit twice is a bit long, but hey. Alright, these chain chomps movement is pretty random. They're really dangerous. I've already lost that much health even after that barrier refill, so... But it's okay since I have powder. Another good safety. So we're seeing chain chomps and pokies, which are the two Mario enemies I was talking about. Unfortunately I got hit twice there, but that's fine. I have the powder as a backup, so... That's another one of the reasons why I picked it up. I'll probably use it in the upcoming rooms, so... I just need to pick up these arrows for the next dungeon. Don't want to forget that. Alright, yes, we got all these pipes going through as well, which is another reason why people refer to this as being a more Mario dungeon, with the pipes and stuff, so... Okay. So this is all to get the big key. We need the big key not for the major item in here, which is the mirror shield, which is very not useful. It lags the game quite a lot, and we don't want to get that at all. But it will give us access to the boss of the dungeon, which is important. I'm going to powder these fairies real quick. Get my health back. It's a very good idea to have safeties in a run like this, because death at the later part of this dungeon is very, very, very costly in terms of time. So. Alright, so this is another interesting room. 16 different patterns those Pokies can take. 4 directions each. And you've got to learn the optimal strat for each one, and that was pretty optimal for that one, so happy about that one. Alright, we need to have the cane next. As we head through some more rooms. We've got another room with one of these rolling pins in, which also do full heart damage. Oh, I didn't quite get through. That's the big deal. Oh, I've gone out the door. Some of these doors suck you in when you're near them, so it can be pretty annoying. That's a pretty cool trick. Saves a bit of time. That's again making use of bites and dashing to use the Cane of Samaria like that, so I'm glad I got to show that off at least, even if the room was a little slower than normal. Alright, so going through this maze here, there's no real way of speeding this up, but you can take the exact same route every time, which is nice at least. We're going to come up to a room called Laser Bridge, which is not this bridge, but the one after this. We'll be doing something called a laser skip, hopefully. If I don't cancel my accident. Alright, let's see how this is done. Well, that guy's just going to chill. Unfortunately, these guys have a lot of health, so not hanging them up is a bit unfortunate. Right. Oh, that's no big deal. I have a lot of health, so I'm not too worried. I think I will go and take the emergency exit though, just in case. Just because the boss is pretty dangerous. Can do a lot of damage if something goes wrong, and I really don't want to, like I said, I really don't want to start a dungeon again. It's pretty tight to get laser skips, and those lasers, like we saw, did 4 hearts of damage. And I fell, so pretty unfortunate all in all. But, you know, what can you do? At least I got a heart off that guy, that was nice. Yeah, these masked dinosaur things are also in the fairy price pack, so I'm going to grab that. Right, now things are a lot safer, so I'm not worried about death anymore. That's quite convenient that we got 2 50/50s now. And in fact, I'll probably do the backdoor strat now, since it's a lot. It's pretty cool, it's pretty fast, so... yeah, so this is a Trinex. This is what we needed the Ice Sword for. This is the only thing we need the Ice Sword for. That's pretty good. That's the first phase. Just in a nice position. That's a pretty great fight. That's what you get when you take some extra safeties. A bit slower, but ends up being faster. Alright, so that's Tower Rock. We only have one more dungeon left, which is Ganon's Tower. And of course, we saved the hardest dungeon till last. This is going to be pretty interesting. There's a lot of... Ganon's Tower is huge. It's absolutely gigantic. There's a ton of different rooms, a bunch of different ways you can go. And even going through it optimally, we're going to see quite a bit of the dungeon. Not all of it, but quite a lot. We've also rescued Zelda, kind of, now, so that's quite cool. Yeah. And we've got all 7 crystals. And I'm pretty sure the game tells me this, because it is better to have done all of the other dungeons first, so... But yeah, we're heading over to Ganon's Tower. That's a pretty good fight too, like I said before. Firstly, we'll be heading down to the basement to get the big key. There's a lot of really cool rooms and really precise text, so that's pretty exciting. And then what the hardest part is the upper part of Ganon's Tower, in which there are a lot of rooms with a lot of enemies you have to kill. It's all reaction based. I think that's something I've not talked about yet, is the fact that one of the reasons why this game is ran so much is because not only is there a lot of cool glitches you can do in the glitch categories, but even in this category, although there's a bunch of RNG for a lot of enemies, there's also, yeah, even though there's RNG, you can react to most of it, other than the 2 major instances I've talked about. You can react to pretty much everything, and there's optimal strats for those. And I think that's one of the reasons why people like this game so much, is that it is to do with reacting. And it keeps you on your toes, you know? It makes sure you try a lot of different things, do a lot of things optimally. So it's one of the reasons why, yeah, people really like running this game. But yeah, so this is Ganon's Tower. We needed those 7 crystals to enter. We also need a ton of items to get through it. We need the hookshot, we need the hammer. We're gonna need a lot more. We'll also get to see the boomerang again, which is pretty hype, right? Right about now. Oh, okay, well maybe not that fast. I'm gonna throw this pot just for more accuracy. There we go. Okay. Usually I screw that room up, so that's pretty good. Alright, so we're continuing on in the basement. Something also that's pretty cool about this dungeon, if you play Link Between Worlds you might know this already, but in Ganon's Tower you refight all of the bosses you fought in the Light World already, which includes Almost Knight, Slamolus, and Meldum. Not necessarily in that order though. Oh no, it is in that order actually, thinking about it, so yeah, there we go. But they've all got a bit of changed mechanics to them, and we're going to see the first one, Almost Knights, fairly soon. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes well. It's a lot harder than the previous fight, even though we have got a lot of health. Not much risk of dying necessarily, it's just hard to do fast, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully I do it right. Hope I don't fall off. That's kind of bad. Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty fortunate. That guy was pretty aggro, so taking him out is a good thing. Generally, I say. I'm gonna wait for the anti-fairy to touch that the 2nd time, because that guarantees he moves out. And now we go down to the fight. Let's see how this goes. Oh, don't want to mirror, that'd be really bad. Right, the 1 extra arrow there is for luck, by the way. I definitely didn't match that. But anyway, that was a pretty good fight. The ice physics make it a little more annoying, and it changes what you're supposed to do with the strat, so yeah. But now we got the big key, we can go up to the top of the dungeon and climb the tower itself. This is probably the hardest part of the run to do quickly. Loads of damaging enemies, loads of tight strats, so hopefully this goes well. Yeah. We also need the bow to be able to kill some of these mimics in this room. We'll see how this goes. That would have been stupid. Alright, that's pretty good. I'm probably going to pick up the backup fairies en route here. They're called Josh's fairies. After a speedrunner who I don't know if it was the first one to get them necessarily, but it was probably in a relatively famous run that he got them. I'm relatively new to the Link to the Past community. There's been a lot of people that have been around for a long time. So I'm not clued into necessarily all of the jokes and the like, so... But yes, I'll take the backup fairies here. This is one of the. I think this is the only use in the game that the game expects you to bonk off of those blocks. So if you're not thinking of doing that, you might wonder how the hell you get over here. So that's how you do that. It's not too difficult. All right, so now we're starting the gauntlet. Okay. The only bad thing about getting fairies is you have sword beams here, and sword beams do less damage than your regular sword slash. That's pretty unfortunate. Alright, so that's gauntlet 2, this is gauntlet 3. I guess I could do that, that's kind of cool. That's pretty useful. Maybe sword beams are the best, I take it back. Okay, now I don't have them, so... Oh, this guy's not playing nice, is he? There we go. Alright, that was a pretty slow run. Like I said, these rooms are pretty tough to do as fast as possible, so...
Is now a good time for some donations?
Go for it, yeah. I'll just be refighting one of these bosses. I hope they have food as well. I missed the cycle now because I passed the ferry, but we'll see.
Okay, so we have £10 from Matthew Randall saying, "Love to see Smash UK give to great charities. Let's go Tigerton. Love his randomised runs." And we got £20 from Luke Galloway saying, "Great job everyone, what an amazing event. Speedruns aren't really my thing, but just wanted to say how amazing Tom's run is, and his commentary is really engaging."
Thank you so much. Alright, so
And,
now we're making good use of the King of Samaria once again to kill these enemies really quickly. These rooms are pretty cool, with Reserves 1 and Reserves 2, so this is the second one, pretty dope. There we go. Alright, and now we're going to come up to what was referred to earlier as what I guess I still call the Haggis room. Because he might have told me how to do this room in my first playthrough of the game, so that's kind of nice. Thanks, Haggis. I'm going to do this strat. The fireball is coming around. Alright, so something else I can talk about here is it's very important, for me especially now, to wait out the sound of the jingle again. There it is. If you climb the stairs and that jingle plays, every sprite in the dungeon will despawn, which includes the bar. And we definitely don't want that to happen, because then we have to mirror to the start of the dungeon and start all over again. Yeah, that would be pretty unfortunate. I want to take the hit. I have plenty of health. Yeah, we definitely don't want to do that. So as much as it would make these rooms easier... Oh, okay, well... There we go, okay. As much as it would make the rooms easier, it also wouldn't allow me to complete the game, and that'd be a bit bad. Yeah, this is a refight with Moldum, but now we have a lot more weaponry, so things are gonna be better. Well, the being out of bombs here is actually pretty good, because it'll make, well, it might make some mending a little faster. But yeah, we're coming up to the refight with Aghanim now. This is actually a lot less RNG dependent than the fight in the Light World. Mostly because there's 2 clones of him this time, and they all shoot guaranteed. Well, the 2 clones shoot reflectable shots back at me, so it's a lot easier to deal damage to him. Whereas Aghanim himself can still shoot unreflectable shots, and he's the only one that takes damage as well. Okay, that's probably 2 hits. It may count as 1 because of that should be free. Oh, that guy's gone there, okay. That's alright. They're a bit desynced now, but this should be fine. There we go. That's pretty decent. I think it's a 4 cycle. Alright, so here he is. Here's Ganon. We've not seen him yet. And now all that's left is to beat Ganon. So I'm not going to talk for the first part of the fight. It's pretty tough to get the optimal first 2 cycles, but from there I'll start talking about what I've been doing and what's to come. But yeah, Ganon is pretty tough. Just for context, Ganon himself, if I touch him, does 8 hearts of damage, so I kind of want to avoid doing that at this point. So let's see how this goes. Fine. I mean, it should be be okay. Fine. Yeah, the trident also does 4 damage, so. Alright, I think we've got past the second cycle. It's been a bit scuffed, but it's fine. Alright, so we're on phase 3 now. This is the other big part of RNG in the run, like I was saying earlier, is with the Ganon fight. Each time he warps here, he has a 50-50 chance of stopping. There's nothing you can do to manipulate it. Gotta wait it out, hope for the best. We have to do this 4 times. Okay, well I didn't get hit there, that's good. Okay, well, okay, now take it back. That's fine. We're gonna go into phase 4 soon. Now, in the regular game, you need silver arrows to beat the game. But since I'm doing a speedrun here, I don't technically need to. We're gonna exploit a little thing in a second, so you'll see. I'll leave that on there for safety. Pretty dangerous to go all the way up there. Alright, how was that? That's a pretty good fight. The first phases are a bit awful, the last phase is pretty good. A few triples in there. Alright, time's coming up as soon as I enter the Triforce room. I'll tell out when. Won't be very long now. And time! Alright, there we go. That was a pretty good run. Unfortunately, the Tower of Terror split was a bit unfortunate, but that's okay. There were a few minor mistakes throughout, but I hold myself to high standards, so hopefully that was pretty good. Pretty fun run. It's a pretty fun game, like I said, and especially the glitch categories, a lot of crazy stuff can happen, so going through walls, going to different dungeons, it's a very, very exploitative game, but at the same time, it's also very resilient to being broken, because going between dungeons and stuff, it doesn't break the game at all. It's really, really good, so it's a really fun game, it's a really fun speedrun. It's pretty difficult too, so playing it a bit safe was good for the sake of the marathon. Yeah, so hopefully everyone enjoyed.
Oh, well done, thank you so much, Tigerton. It was very good.
What was my time, by the way?
It was a 1:36:22 on the stream clock.
Nice, that's alright, I'll take that.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah. I will also say that if you want to get involved in speedrunning this game, I would highly recommend checking out the speedrun.com leaderboard. On there, there's a link to the Discord. The Discord has a ton of different resources and information. There's a variety of really, really great long-time runners of the game. They're very helpful. They know everything. It's crazy. People know a lot about this game. So, yeah, people have took it apart quite a lot. So, I'd highly recommend checking that out if you're interested. There's also what I entered the scene with is the randomizer of the game, which I find incredibly fun to play, where all the items in the game are moved around and it's pretty crazy. There's a sizable competitive scene for that. There's actually a main tournament for that coming up in March, I believe, so I'll be entering that. I'm going for trying to do my best there. If you want to get involved in that, look up the links to past randomizer. I can recommend it on a casual level as too. Casual level 2 is very, very fun to go through. A ton of different options. The community for that's really, really good too. So good shout outs to both of the communities. Yeah. Not sure what else I've got to say really. Oh, I guess I stream this game quite a lot on my Twitch channel, which is the Tigerton. My Twitter is Tigerton_. You can catch me streaming this game, probably the speedrun for a bit longer. I'll probably try and push to get a better PB. And I'll also play a lot of the randomizer, as I said, for the upcoming tournament happening, so I play pretty frequently. Yeah, so it'd be cool if you can come check it out. It's pretty chill.
And just quickly, one more Tigerton directed donation. Haas has donated £5 to say, "Let's go Tigerton. Love all of you and love all the speedruns happening today. Good luck, everyone." Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hassan. Thanks a lot.